Hello, hello, hello. How's everybody doing? I'm just starting about a minute early. Crazy. Normally I start as close to 7:30 as possible, but today you get a 1 minute bonus. So we'll start in 32 seconds. Just saying hi to Freddie Wolf and Mode Eggs. Know that in the chat. Barra Vilson, Wanda, Lolly Lolly. Good to see all of you there. Let me make sure things are working. Sounds like they are. That's awesome. It's cool to be able to do this lesson today. We'll start in about 12 seconds. I got Brent in the chat from American English with Brent. He has a week off. Crazy, crazy, crazy. But yeah, let's get started in 3, 2, 1. Well, hello everyone, and welcome to this lesson, which I've entitled Look Up. In this lesson, I'm going to talk about all of the things that you see when you look above you during the day, whether you're in a building, whether you're in your house or at work, or if you're outside walking down the street. In this lesson, you will look up many times, hopefully, and see some of the things that I'm talking about. If you're wondering where the ideas for these lessons come from, this came from two places. Number one, I was sitting in a larger area of our school yesterday, listening to another teacher, and I was a bit bored, and I looked up and saw a skylight and thought, I haven't taught the word skylight yet. Then later in the day, I was making my short English lesson for my other channel, and I heard wind chimes. I never actually did see them. And I thought, oh, I just looked up twice today. I can do a whole lesson on this, I think. So welcome to this lesson on things you will see if you look up, things that you will find on the ceiling and things that you will find above your head when you walk around your city or your town. Before we get started, I do want to say hi. I was already saying hi to some people, but I'll say hi again. Hi to Know That. It looks like, Know That looks like Nightbot is here. Thank you, Know That, for testing the link. Know That volunteered to help out today to make sure Nightbot was present and working. So thank you for doing that. And also to take over and become the Nightbot of the chat if Nightbot wasn't here. So thanks, Know That, for testing that. Looks like everything's in order. Who else do we have here? Brent from American English with Brent. Good to see you, Brent. Must be fun to have a week off. I don't get a week off. I have 2 more weeks before I get a week off. So our schedules don't overlap very nicely. Our summer does, but hi to Judith, CD, Raman, Wanda, Madi. Hi, Madi. Good to see you. Kizshigi, Hanitra, Freddie Wolf again, Lolly Lolly, Abdullah. Let me scroll back. Shankroon, Tomek, Hanitra. I love all the different names. My day is full of really standard English names. Hi to Yusuf and Fabian and all of you, and Little Pony C. Hi Tanya as well. We're going to talk about things that you see above you. Most of my lessons are inspired from my actual life. I just look for ideas during the day. This one came to me as I was staring at the ceiling, a little bit bored yesterday. Remember, use the chat for fun English conversation. Wait, Brent says he has a week in February and a week in April. Oh, I need to mention that to my boss, I think, that other schools have 2 breaks. So anyways, use the chat for fun English conversations. Use the form in the description below, or that Nightbot will share to ask a question, and we will get this lesson started. Here we go. Skylight. So as I mentioned, when I looked up yesterday while I was sitting, I saw a skylight above my head. When a window is in a wall, we call it a window. When a window is in a ceiling, we call it a skylight because it lets you see the sky and it lets in lots of light. The window at the far end on the wall is not a skylight. I should have put an arrow. If you were in this room and you were to look up, the window that you see, it's hard to point on the picture. The window that you see that's part of the ceiling, we would call a skylight. Now, most of the skylights that I've seen do not open, but some skylights do open as well. But the majority of skylights that I've seen, at least in our building at school, they do not open. It's just a fixed window in the ceiling that does not open. So a skylight, a window in the ceiling that lets some light in and lets you see the sky. It's a good name, isn't it? I did want to review that. When you look up, when you are in a building, what you see above you is called the ceiling. I will talk about roof a little bit later. A roof is what you see on the outside of a building. But when you look up, if you look up right now, I'm assuming you are all inside. What you see above your head is called the ceiling. So in our gym at school, there are rafters. This isn't my gym, but our gym looks a lot like this. If you see the white things that go across, we call that a rafter. Sometimes when students are playing volleyball, they'll hit the ball really high and it will hit the rafters, or it will even get stuck in the rafters. So when you go in a large room, you don't often see rafters in a house. They're usually covered with, we put a board on the ceiling, but rafters are those large wood or metal things that go across the top of a large building. And you can usually see other things inside of the rafter, like it's a big triangle with other little pieces in it. And we call that a rafter. So sometimes when you hit a volleyball really hard, it goes up and it hits the rafters, and then and then it's out of play, I think, if it hits the rafters. I'm not a volleyball expert. So, and then we also have what's called a beam. So this is a very traditional beam. It's actually called an I-beam. If you turn and look at the end, it looks like the letter I in English. That's why it's called an I-beam. But these are what we use in various building projects. My house has a really large room at the back, and there is an I-beam in the ceiling to kind of hold up the floor. So it's a very strong beam. I think I did a lesson once where I was in the upstairs part of my barn, and I showed you a really old wooden beam in the barn. So a beam is a single piece of metal or wood that you might see. If you look up, you might see one above your head. Maybe you live in a house with really nice beams that you can see when you look at the ceiling. And of course, a common one would be a light fixture. This is the general term for whatever is on the ceiling where you would put a light bulb in or put a light, like a fluorescent tube in. We would call it a light fixture. Some rooms don't have light fixtures. The room I'm in doesn't have any light fixtures. I just have, you can see I have the lamp behind me, and then I have a few other lamps in this room. There are no light fixtures in the ceiling. But in my kitchen, there are 3 different places where there's a light fixture. And I put light bulbs in the light fixture so that at night you could turn the light on and you can see. It's always good to be able to see at night. It helps you read and work on things. I often wonder what the world was like before we had light fixtures and the ability to see at night. Just, I guess, little candles everywhere. That would not have been very nice. And then you might have a ceiling fan. So aptly named, not sure if you know the word aptly, but it means it makes sense to call it this. It is a fan that's located on the ceiling. So we call it a ceiling fan. Very, very simple. These are really nice to have both in the summer, and you might not know this, they're nice to have in the winter. We do not have a ceiling fan in our house, but there are ceiling fans in some places in our school. And what they do is, in the summer, they circulate the air. And in the winter, they circulate the air as well. They bring the warm air back down again. Warm air will rise in a room, and then the ceiling fan will help bring that warm air back down. So a ceiling fan, again, aptly named, a fan that is located on the ceiling so that you can stay cool when you want to stay cool. Chandelier. We don't have a chandelier. I do remember, though, my grandparents had a chandelier above their dining room table. They weren't rich. They didn't have a fancy house, but they had a chandelier. A chandelier is a very fancy type of light that hangs from the ceiling, and it has multiple light bulbs in it. So chandelier, sorry if you're French and it sounds like a strange pronunciation, but a chandelier is kind of a, I think the word ornate would work here. It's very nicely decorated. It's usually made out of, a really nice kind of metal like brass, or it might have a silver look to it. It's not made out of silver, but it looks nice and shiny. But definitely chandeliers are very fancy. Now, my grandparents, the chandelier had little fake gems hanging from it as well, like not real diamonds, but like fake plastic diamonds. So a chandelier, a very nice, ornate. Ornate means like rich looking. I guess it could actually mean rich, but a very nice looking light. I don't like chandeliers. Generally, I hit my head on them when I stand up from the table if I'm leaning forward. So there's an interesting type of ceiling, and I'm wondering how common these are around the world. In large buildings, and sometimes in the basements of houses in Canada, we will use ceiling tiles, and we will install what's called a drop ceiling. So most of the hallways at my school have a drop ceiling in it. That means they installed metal, like a metal grid, and they put ceiling tiles, and pointing the wrong way, into that grid. The reason this is common in a building like a school, or in maybe a government building or a factory, is it allows you to easily remove the tiles to get at what's in the ceiling. In our school, there's a lot of wiring in the ceiling. There's a lot of network cable and electrical wires. And so if they put in a permanent ceiling and they needed to change or add things or fix something, it's hard to get into the ceiling. So they install what's called a drop ceiling. They put in a whole grid of metal rails, and then inside of that, individual ceiling tiles are placed. Very handy. Our basement doesn't have a drop ceiling, but it is common in Canada to do the same thing in the basement of a house for the same reason. By the way, the basement is the room in the ground of a house, because there's lots of pipes and wires and electrical wires in the ceiling. It's nice to put a drop ceiling in with ceiling tiles so that you have access if you need to. Hey, let's do a few questions. Hopefully the question form is working. So far it says that the live stream is working pretty good. It says that 0.7% of the frames have dropped. So that's not too bad as things go. Let me get to... I think this is... Yeah, I think I'm in the right spot. Let me just check the audio for a sec here. There we go. No, that says, hello, sir. What is your favorite thing to see? Or is there something you'd like to see most when you look up? I mean, besides falling snow. Thanks in advance, Bob. Well, falling snow would be one of my number ones. But I do like looking up into the canopy of a tree. I'll talk about the word canopy a bit later. I love sitting under a tree and looking up on a sunny day in the summer. That's a very, very enjoyable thing to do. So it's nice. I like sitting outside under a tree and looking up. Ruslan, hello, dear teacher Bob. How are you today, sir? Have you ever seen a comet falling across the sky? Our observatory is popular in Canada. I have not seen a comet. I have seen a falling star. And I saw a video yesterday of, I think, a satellite re-entering Earth orbit. I think it landed in Texas. Maybe Brent knows about this. But people saw it on their security cameras. So there were little clips, like in my area. I live really far away from Texas, but people could see it off to the southwest. They saw on their security cameras a little streak going across the sky. Let's see here. What was I going to check? Can't remember. That's okay. I'll get back to the lesson. Renata says, Bonjour Bob, comment vas-tu? Ça va bien. I like to look up at the night sky. My neck hurts from looking at the stars so much, but I like it. How about you? Merci, bonne journée. It's better to lay down outside at night to look up at the stars, just so you know. If you're looking for a strategy, when I was younger, would do that. I would lay outside and look up at the stars. If you don't want to lay in the grass, because maybe there's dew and it's a bit wet, lay on a picnic table. I used to lay on a picnic table and look up. Very, very fun way to look at the stars. So get a blanket, go outside at night, lay on the blanket. From whom, when you look at your house, you'll see that it's covered with tiled or flat roof. What type of roof do you prefer for your house? Is a tiled roof more suitable for your home? In Canada, most roofs have shingles. A shingle is made out of paper and tar and like stone grit. It's a very interesting thing. And they lay them on similar to tiles, but it's actually flexible. So most houses in Canada have shingles. If they don't have shingles, the next most common roof is a metal roof. In other parts of the world, tile roofs are very, very common. I know in Japan, in parts of of Europe, but you'll see them in Canada, but not as often as you'll see shingles or metal roofs. And what do I prefer? Because I don't like spending money. I would love to put a metal roof on my house, because in Canada, metal roofs last 40 or 50 years. And shingled roofs only last about 15 to 20 years. So I would love to put on a roof that I never have to replace again in my lifetime. That would be nice. Mohammed, what do we call in English if someone isn't able to read and write? So there's something called literacy. So we want someone to be literate. So if someone can't write, we might refer to them as illiterate, although it's not a very nice term. We would probably just say they struggle with reading and writing. We try to not speak directly in a way that will offend people. So that would be, or you might actually know their level. Like they have an A1 level in reading and an A2 level in writing. That might be it. Let's see. Judith. Hi, Judith. Hi, Bob. If you look up, do you consider things from a different perspective, heights, or just from the place where you look at it? So that's an interesting one. Like no matter where you are, you can look up and there are more things above you. I end this lesson with the sun, moon, stars, and clouds. I got progressively higher. But I'm wondering if you mean, does it change your perspective of whether, like if I'm in a really high place, and I look up, I don't feel like I'm in a high place anymore until I look down. And then I feel a little bit, I don't like heights, so a little bit afraid of heights. Let's see here. I'm going to skip. Okay, a little bit of a look up here. From Alyssa, greetings, Bob. Could you tell us how listen from differs from listen to or hear, and what it exactly means? E.g., I listened from something from above. Thank you. We rarely listen from. So you listen to music, you listen for someone. Like I'm going to listen for someone walking around in the house. Like I hear something downstairs. Let's listen for a noise. You hear things like listen is an action. Like I decide to listen. When you hear something, it happens to you. Like you hear a car go by. But I can decide to listen to music. So, not quite on topic, so I'm going to move on. Yeah, I could do a whole lesson on that at some point. Viet says, I'm planning to build a room for my kid, but it's very hot in my city. I try to build a cool room. Do you think it's better to cool a room with a skylight than with windows? So skylights that can open are probably good at letting hot air out of a room. Hot air rises. So I would think that if you had a skylight that would open, that might help keep the room cool. But I am not an expert. I'm not a building expert. From Eva, no question, but just let you know, I'm outside raking the backyard. No winter in Poland anymore. Yep, it went away here too pretty quickly. We're not sure it will come back at all. We'll see. Okay, I'm going to get back to the lesson. Let me have a sip of water here and read the chat a bit. People are talking away. And there's a few questions in the form that aren't related to the lesson. I do try to stay on topic for sure. Okay. Let's see here. How's it? Okay. Let's move on. An air vent. You might see an air vent if you look up. This is a general term for any place where air can enter or leave a building. So in Canada, we heat our houses a lot with furnaces that force air through the house. We call it forced air, actually. It's a forced air heating system, as opposed to hot water in pipes or radiant heating in the floor. So you might see an air vent in the ceiling. At school, there are a lot of air vents in the ceiling. In my house, in the basement, there are air vents in the ceiling, but on the main floor, the air vents are in the floor. Sometimes the air vent is in the ductwork. So ductwork is this series of metal, basically box like tubes that carry the air through the house. We would call this ductwork. So you might see an air vent. This air vent is in the ductwork, or you might just see ductwork. This one actually has an air vent in it too. Yeah, there's a little air vent there in the middle of it. An exhaust fan. So these are common in places like bathrooms. Bathrooms often will have an exhaust fan in the ceiling to remove either the moisture from when you have a shower or bath, or the smell after you go to the bathroom. So it's very common, at least in North America, for there to be a light on the ceiling in a bathroom and for there to be an exhaust fan. We also call it a bathroom fan. You know, if someone goes to the bathroom and it smells, let's be honest, sometimes when you go to the bathroom, it smells. It's polite to turn on the bathroom fan to remove the air from the bathroom for a little bit. So we would call it an exhaust fan if it's just in any room. In a bathroom, you could call it an exhaust fan or bathroom fan. And we also have a fan in our kitchen above where we cook. We call it a kitchen fan, or you could call it an exhaust fan as well. So the word exhaust means to take out the air, like it exhausts the air. Security camera. Security cameras are usually located out of reach. There's a good word. They put security cameras out of reach so that people can't mess with the security camera. A security camera isn't useful if it's at eye level, because someone could just sneak up and spray paint on the front of it. But as you know, a security camera is a camera that is usually outside of a building. It can be inside of a building, and it records people who are walking by. So if a crime is committed or if something bad happens, you can look at the footage to figure out what happened. Smoke alarm. So we have a number of names for these, but it might be called a smoke alarm. It might be called a fire alarm. It might be called a carbon monoxide detector. Let me say that one again. A carbon monoxide detector. A smoke alarm is used to detect smoke. If a smoke alarm senses smoke, it will go off. It will start to beep. A carbon monoxide detector detects carbon monoxide. And if it senses carbon monoxide, it starts to beep to warn the people who live there that they need to get out of the house or get out of the building. So smoke alarm, carbon monoxide detector, a couple of different, slightly different thing. Although in Canada, most of our smoke alarms now, I shouldn't say most, a lot of smoke alarms are also carbon monoxide detectors. They do both jobs. You might have a hanging plant. So I mentioned the other day that I was teaching in the classroom of another teacher, and that teacher had lots of plants in their room. She had plants in pots, and there were a couple hanging plants. So a hanging plant is a plant in a pot, which has some ropes or chains, and it's hooked onto the ceiling. Hanging plants are nice because instead of the plants all being, you know, at our level, it feels a little more like you're in a jungle or something. It's nice to have a hanging plant in a room. It adds a little bit of greenery, adds a touch of green to the room. And most humans enjoy having plants around. It just makes us feel a little bit better. A mobile. So this is only if you have babies. This is something you might hang above a baby's crib. A mobile is something that it can turn, but it has all little things hanging from it. This is the only place where I know that in North America we still have mobiles. Sometimes students will make this as a school project, but a mobile is just something that hangs with other little things hanging from it. If it's a mobile above a kid's crib, it might turn and it might play a song. You might wind it up and it will play a song. But yes, a mobile. Wind chimes. So as I mentioned, I heard some wind chimes yesterday. Wind chimes are things that hang somewhere on someone's property. Maybe they are hanging in a tree. Maybe they're hanging from the eaves of the house. And when the wind blows, they make like it's not really a song, but it's not noise. It's like a pleasing sound. It's like a song made by the wind. So you can see this wind chime. There are a series of pipes and they're all different lengths, which makes a slightly different sound. Each pipe is probably tuned or cut so that when you hit it, it makes a certain note. One probably makes a C note, an A note, an F note, a G, and then there's usually a little thing in the middle that will hit them, or they hit each other. And when they do that, they play a lovely little sound, a song by the wind. That's my definition of it. They make a song. The wind makes a song by blowing the wind chimes. Bird feeder. So this is a cardinal, by the way. The bird here is a cardinal. We like it when we see a cardinal. It's really fun, especially in the winter, when you see a bird that's completely red land to eat some feed from the bird feeder. But a bird feeder is something that humans put up outside, sometimes in a tree. Sometimes it just hangs from a pole, and birds can come and then they can eat some of the bird feed. In Canada, bird feeders are pretty common. It is fun in the winter when you're stuck inside on a cold day to look outside and see some birds eating from the bird feeder. We did have a bird feeder. We don't currently have a bird feeder. It blew down in a windstorm and got wrecked a little bit, I think. I should go look. Maybe in my next short video, I'll go look for the bird feeder. But anyways, a bird feeder, a place where birds can get a little snack. It's like a little restaurant for birds. There you go. Patio lights. So it's very common in most parts of the world to spend time outside, to sit outside and enjoy just being not inside. And you might need some lights. This down here is called a patio. I might call this up here a pergola. But if I was to sit outside, I would want some lights so that when it gets late, you could stay out you could stay out late and still see. So patio lights are something that we hang up so that we can have lights outside. By the way, patio lights are a little bigger than Christmas lights. They kind of look the same, but patio lights usually have bigger bulbs and give off more light so that you can see at night. In the summer here, when you're sitting outside. Eavestroughs, and I put the word gutters on there. So in Canada, around your house, we have what's called eavestrough. My understanding is in other places they call these gutters, but we in Canada call them eavestrough. So when it rains, the rain goes into the eavestrough, and then eventually it goes down the downspout, and it goes into your cistern, or it goes somewhere away from your house. People do different things with the water, but an eavestrough is meant to collect rain from a roof when it rains so that the water can either be directed away from the house, because you don't want the water to get into your house, or it might go into a large cistern, which is a big tank, usually underground in Canada, where you can store water to use for something later. So eavestrough or gutters. You can see the gutters on a house. A roof. So I mentioned earlier I was going to talk about the difference between the ceiling and the roof. So here's the difference. If you're inside and you look up, you see the ceiling. If you are outside and you look at a building, the top part where this guy is sitting is called the roof. Let me make that a little bit bigger. So he is sitting on, not this guy. I don't know what he's doing. Oh, he's standing on some scaffolding, I think. No, the guy in the red pants over there, he is sitting on the roof. The roof is where you install solar panels. You can also see this roof has 3 skylights. If you look far over, you'll see it has 3 skylights. I'm guessing that these people just finished installing this roof. Maybe they just put the metal on. And I wanted to show this picture because this is the style of metal roof we usually use in Canada. It's just sheets of metal. And then, as I mentioned, shingles are more common, but this is the type of metal we use if we do a metal roof. Let's see. Tree canopy. So when you look up, when you see the top of a tree, kind of protecting you from the sun. When you look up and see the tree canopy, you're seeing the sun kind of hitting all the leaves, and you're standing below in a nice, cool, shady place. So it's nice. I enjoy walking in the woods or in the forest under the canopy and being protected from the sun and having a nice hike, you would call it. Hey, let's do members only chat. Let me get that set up. If you're one of the over 300 people watching right now, thanks for being here. Don't leave. Members only chat is just a moment where I answer questions directly from the chat, and I will also answer questions from the queue as well, and we'll get back to the lesson in about 10 minutes. If you are members, thank you for being members. If you're not a member and are interested, there is a link below that says join. Click that and have a listen to watch the video and read what it says. There's some cool things. You get an extra video on Wednesdays. You get your name in green during a live stream and a crown. What else do you get? Oh, a little Monday lesson plan for the week. Those have been very popular. There's got to be something else, isn't there? I don't know. You get a lot of things. But anyways, thanks for being members. You are awesome. Let me see here. Get my glasses out. John says, hi, John Wedge. Hello, Bob. No question today. I arrived late, but I'm here. No problem. Good to have you here. No, that says, Bob, I've often wondered, let me slow down. Bob, I've often wondered whether it's just a coincidence that the ladder in your thumbnails or in the videos on your farm is leaning against the roof, or whether it's always there. So in the winter and in the fall in Canada, we're often cleaning our eaves troughs. We clean our eaves troughs a lot in the fall because they fill with leaves. And we clean our eaves troughs a lot in the winter. Well, not as much, but sometimes they freeze or there's chunks of ice. So we want our eaves troughs to always work properly. So there's actually 2 ladders around our house almost all the time. There's a small ladder that's sometimes laying right in front, and there's a bigger ladder at the back because we like to check every few weeks. And then we probably should put the ladder away, but it's more convenient not to. Ralph says, John Wedge, same here. Late, no questions, but a lot of new words. Good. I'm glad there are some new words for all of you. Let's see here. Let me get to the next question. From Frankie. Hi, Bob. Thank you for your class. Tomorrow is a full moon of the first lunar month. We can see a big moon when we look up in the sky. Definitely one of the things you can see is the moon. A full moon is great because you can see when you go outside at night. That's what I like about a full moon, is that when I go outside at night, I can see what I'm doing. From Monsieur Tuna, when you look up in the sky, you'll see many constellations. I like looking at them, little fix. Do you enjoy watching them, using constellations to determine the right direction? Thanks. I do like looking up to find the Big Dipper and the North Star and the Little Dipper. Those are my favorite constellations because I know how to find them. But yes, definitely when you look up at night, you can see constellations. So a constellation is a grouping of stars that someone in the past has imagined looks like something. So the Big Dipper looks like a soup ladle a little bit. Pretty cool. Let's see here. Key Park says, today's topic makes me remember the movie Don't Look Up. Yeah, that was a funny movie. Was that Leonardo DiCaprio and Jennifer Lawrence, I think? Yes. John Wedge talking to Brent. For sure, I'll watch all of it. Tanya says, is it mandatory in Canada to proof the fire alarm detectors every 2 years for security reasons? So in a public building, fire extinguishers, the fire alarm system, everything is inspected quite regularly. It might even be more than yearly. In a school, I think it's a few times a year. In a house, it's less regular. Like I think every 5 years, someone from our insurance company comes to make sure we have everything properly installed. But in a public building, like a school or office building, it's definitely checked. Let's see. John Wedge saying hi to Key Park. Wanda says, hi, Teacher Bob. You mentioned a hanging plant in a classroom. When you are a teacher, is it possible to decorate your classroom? Thanks a lot. To an extent. Like, you can't renovate, like you can't rip down walls, but you can put things on the walls. If you wanted to have a hanging plant, I would be allowed to put a hook in the ceiling. That would be okay. I might ask the maintenance person to do it for me so it's done properly. But yes, you can definitely hang things on the wall. Mode says no to know that. Pigeons are not birds. They're just rats with wings. If there were some pretty birds in my area like the northern cardinal, then of course I'd have a couple on my balcony. Yes, Mode's trying to keep birds away right now using the reflective pie plate method that I recommended. Should work. Lolly says, Bob, do you have security cameras around your farm? We do. Yep. Because we run a business and because we sell flowers, we want to be aware when someone doesn't pay. So we do, yes. Key Park says, good to see you too, John Wedge. Freddie Wolf says, Bob, do you have the possibility to install a pipeline system from your gutters to fill your water pond with the rainfalls in order to have enough water for your flowers? So our roof on our house, the water from this roof goes into a cistern that we do actually use in our house. The water from the barn eventually goes to the pond, but there's no pipes. But I would like to do that. I would like to have pipes so the pond would stay fuller more often. John Wedge says, hey, don't forget to give a thumbs up, folks. Hafia says, can you see northern lights there in Canada? In my area, it's rare. Maybe once or twice in my life, I've been able to see them. You need to go a lot further north, Hafiaz, to see the northern lights in Canada. Let's see here. No, that says, oh, okay, that makes sense. We only have leaf problems on one of our car parking spots because it slopes towards the house, and so everything collects there. Thanks for your answers. Yeah, as our trees get bigger, the leaves become more and more of a problem for us. When, like a long time ago, the trees were small and it wasn't a problem. Freddie Wolf saying salut to John Wedge. Lolly says, thanks for the answer. No problem. Let me check the form. Let me see. There's a few more. So here we go. Hamza says, hello, Bob. Can you tell me what is the difference between high and tall? Thanks a lot. If I have something I don't want a young child to have, I might put it somewhere high. Okay? But I would say I'm normal height, but my brother is tall. I could say taller if I'm comparing him to me. So there are two examples for you, two example sentences for you. Little Pony C says, hi, Bob. When you look up at the night sky in Canada, are there many stars? How are only a few stars or sometimes none at all? Here are only a few stars or sometimes none at all. I'm in the city. Yes, I live in a very dark area. I live far from the city. And I live far from the town. So at night, I can see a lot of stars. It is really nice. There is a greenhouse close to me that has their lights on at night, and that sometimes ruins the view a bit. But definitely. Hey, Liam, welcome to being a member. It's awesome. Thank you for deciding to become a member. I appreciate it. Everyone's saying welcome to Liam. No, that says, do Jen and you sometimes walk down the road near your farm late at night in the summer to enjoy the view of the night sky and the peace and quiet, Bob? So we do go out at night, but not along the road. Our road is too busy. Even in the middle of the night, there are a lot of vehicles and large trucks going by, and they drive quite fast. So it would be probably unsafe. But our property is large enough that we will walk out just on our property. We'll go look at the flowers at night. If there's a full moon, it's a nice time to go for a walk at night. But yeah, the road's a little busy. I should make another video close to the road. Helix says, hey, Bob, hope you're doing great. Doesn't look up also mean admiration? Yes, you can look up to someone. I kind of forgot how to use it or what is the context. Sorry if it is out of the topic. Thanks. No, it's definitely related. Like a kid might look up to their dad, right? Or they might look up to their mom, and that means that they admire and respect them. A few people in chat saying good morning. I'm going to go back to the lesson in just a bit. I'm going to turn off members only chat. Let's see here. Go back to subscriber mode. I'm going to have a sip of water and get another question on the screen. Hi, sir. The other day, the thief stole my chicken. I gave police the camera to find him with no success. Do you use security camera in your home? Where you often install it? So we sell flowers from the farm. So we do have a security camera that keeps an eye on the where we sell the flowers from. Just so, because people stop in to get to pick up flowers when we're not there. Like they need to pay themselves. It's kind of hard to explain. Freddie Wolf says, by the way, Bob, chandelier are called un lustre in French. Okay. John Wedge, not chandelier. Interesting. John Wedge says, hey, good morning. My country fellow woman from Brazil. Ah, yes, saying hi to your fellow countrymen. Nastaran, hello, Mr. Bob. In Iran, some people put some of birds that they can sing in a cage as a pet. They hang the cage with birds on the wall, sometimes inside the home or even in the yard. Yes, we have birds as pets as well. We don't, like Jen and I don't, but it's very common in Canada to have a few birds as pets. Hey, let's finish the lesson, people. Let's get this done. Tree canopy was the last one. Street light, pretty common one. This is also a pretty common sight in Canada. There are usually seagulls, the bird up top. Let's get a little bigger. The bird up top is called a seagull. You often will see seagulls standing on street lights. Street lights help keep our streets lit at night. They help you to see, but they are also good to keep you safe. It's good to be able to walk around the city when it's well lit at night so that you are safe from something bad happening to you. So you have street lights. You also have power lines. Power lines are the not the tower, okay, but the wire that goes from tower to tower, we would call power lines. So you can see here, there are a lot of power lines here. In Canada, the majority of our power lines are in the air on towers. I know in some countries, power lines are buried. Sometimes I wish our power lines were buried, but I think our country is simply too big for it to be cost effective. It's just really expensive to bury power lines. So the majority of our power lines are in the air above our heads. And then sometimes when they're working, well, that changed my voice a little bit, didn't it? Give me 1 second here. Sorry about that. So when they're working somewhere where there are power lines, they might put signs up that say danger overhead wires. So let's say they're fixing a road and they know that lots of big trucks and equipment are going to come and help fix the road. They might put these signs in to warn people that there are power lines above so they don't hit them with their equipment. On top of my van, my one van, I have a roof rack. You can use a roof rack for a variety of things. We never use our roof rack, but you could put skis on a roof rack. You might have a special thing to hold bicycles, and you can put bikes on your roof rack. Sometimes people will have like an extra storage space on the roof racks of their vehicle, but roof racks are the little things on top of a vehicle that you can use to tie things down to or to carry things. So your vehicle might have a roof rack. And then, of course, there are satellite dishes and antennas. Where I live out in the country, people are more likely to have a satellite dish. They used to have an antenna to watch TV, but most people now have a satellite dish. So a satellite dish receives a signal from a satellite up in space. An antenna receives a radio wave from another antenna, actually. So when I was a kid, we had an antenna on our house so that we could watch television. But now we have a satellite dish on our house because we just get more channels that way. With an antenna, we get 6 channels on our TV. With a satellite dish, we get 120 something channels. I don't even know how many we get. Too many, I think. So a satellite dish and an antenna. A clothesline, you might see a clothesline if you look up on someone's property. A clothesline is something you use to dry clothes. So you can put your clothes on a clothesline and then the sun and wind will dry them. We don't use a clothesline, but we have drying racks that we can use inside our house or outside our house. In fact, yesterday, Jen dried the clothes. Actually, 2 days ago, she dried the clothes outside on our drying rack. But a clothesline, maybe someday I'll install a clothesline to dry our clothes outside. And then, of course, this lesson could go on forever, but it's not going to. You have the sun, the moon, stars, clouds. You can see satellites at night up in the sky. You have outer space above your head. You have the atmosphere. There are many things that I could talk about, but I'm going to end the lesson here. So when you look up today, try to remember some of the names as you go through your day. Maybe walk through your house. If you're at the shopping mall later, or if you are still at work, go for a little walk and look above you and see if you can see rafters, see if you can see air vents, ductwork. Well, you're not going to have a bird feeder at work, security cameras, exhaust fans. Try to find all these things as you go through your day. Anyways, thanks for watching, everybody. I am going to answer a few questions yet, and then we will wrap this up. So let me get the questions on the screen, and let me see how many are left. Just 3 left. Here we go. From Lucas. Hi, Bob. How you doing? Good. Since I've started studying English, I always had a doubt about roof, rooftops, and ceiling, meaning there's any difference between them. Yes. If you're inside, look up. That's the ceiling. If you're outside, what you see on the top of a building is the roof. Okay. So somehow you have to connect inside to ceiling and outside to roof. So what you see. Let's see here. From MD, hi Bob, no question, but would just like to thank you for the valuable lessons. I'm at work right now and watching you. The previous timing was far better. Yeah, it's just unfortunate that, well, it's not unfortunate. It's just life, right? Like I have to teach a class in 40 minutes. It takes me 11 minutes to get to work. So we need to do this lesson an hour earlier. I would do it at a different time, but my understanding is the best times to do lessons for most of you is if I do it in the morning. If I do a lesson at 2 o'clock in the afternoon, my time, most of you are sleeping. So sorry, it's going to be 3 more months of this time, and then we'll go back to 8:30. It will actually change in a bit because time will change too. So I don't know how much that will affect all of you. Hopefully not too much. Last question. Mohammed says, what is a greenhouse? A greenhouse is a building made out of glass or plastic that lets a lot of light in that is used to grow plants. Okay. So Jen and I don't have a greenhouse, but there are many greenhouses around us. I'll try to make a lesson where I can show you a greenhouse at some point. But yeah, it's a place that can be kept warm in the winter, in Canada especially, where they can grow plants. So, hey, thanks for watching, everybody. I'm gonna book out in a bit. I'm gonna get to work. Let me say bye to a few people. Some people saying thanks. Stefan says your videos help me a lot. That's awesome. Werner's talking to Mary Ellis. Very cool. Key Park says thanks, Bob. No problem. Phew, I'm glad nobody mentioned that dad joke. There's a dad joke about looking up. Luke Lucero says, thanks for your help. Thanks for helping me in my English from Colombia. You're welcome. Let's see here. Cat Diary says, thanks a lot for this great lesson, dear teacher Bob. Bye. I'm looking up and remembering your amazing lesson. I'm not sure if I'm going to do look down next week. We'll see. I was going to do look up, look down, look around, but we'll see. I have other ideas as well. Hey, Eugene's here, Automation Secure Home. Good to see you, Eugene. Hope you have a nice day up there in Etobicoke. John Wedge is here. Bye to John, bye to Mode, bye to Andres, Wanda, Efka, Luca, Ralph, Know That, see you Know That. Bye to La Paz Sans Sport. Oh yeah, interesting. Bye to Green, Hanitra, Gabriella, Ulia, Ji Juan, Little Pony, Olivia. Thanks for watching. And do remember, A shorter version of this video will come out. Watching it again is always a good idea. And enjoy your Friday and enjoy your weekend. Bye, everybody. Have a good day.